What is the primary purpose of the church? Is it to provide aid to the community? Is it to create a safe space for Christians to be not of this world? Or is it to convert as many people to your church as possible? Well, let's take a look at what the word says. And he said to them, "Go into all the world and proclaim the gospel to the whole creation." So I would argue that discipleship is the primary purpose of the church. Well, actually, Jared, I would disagree. I think that it's evangelism, or I think that it's prayer or worship or any number of things. And you may even argue that you can't even have discipleship without one of these key things, which is my point of why I think it's discipleship. Other than the scripture backing me up, is because all those other things are encompassed into discipleship. Good discipleship, well, I mean, you have to have evangelism to have discipleship. You can't disciple someone who's not there. And if you evangelize and get someone saved, you're not done just because they're saved. You now have to disciple them into maturity. Thus, it leaves us with discipleship. When we've lost sight of discipleship and we have focused much more on that attractional model of just converting people, or honestly, sometimes not even really converting as much as just trying to attract as many people to our building as possible, one thing I've seen is our evangelism events have largely shifted the way, from the way that we judge and kind of measure them and measure success. Are these people that are coming to our outreach events, are they getting plugged into our church? Sometimes we go to the extreme lengths of even partnering with one or two or three other churches just because we knew that we're going to have a list of contact details. And we're either A, not going to be able to follow up with everyone in a timely manner, or B, not everyone is going to click with our culture the best. And rather than leaving it up to them to go find another church, hey, let's get them connected to 2 or 3 other pastors in the community, knowing that there's a better chance they're going to connect to one of our churches and one of our styles, our local expressions of worship, and get plugged in and discipled. Now I feel like it is so much more. I don't know if I already said this, but it's like it's shifted from the evangelism event being an ends to a means to where it is now the end in of itself. How good did we pull off that event? How amazing was it? How many people did we get here? And essentially, like, how good did we look to the community? Okay, a couple key highlights from this video in this section of the ministry of the church. I love how he brought out the concept and talked about like the idea, because I've seen this happen and I know we can drift and it becomes very easy for ministries to just support themselves or the church. And him kind of criticizing the idea that most youth ministries, kids ministries kind of as well, but most youth ministries exist for the primary purpose of benefiting the church rather than the primary purpose benefiting the students in the ministry. No, Jared, we've done the 40 days of purpose-driven youth ministry. We've got the whole baseball diagram of our funnel and the people and the connect and the community, and we have our mission statement for our youth ministry. In fact, quiz our leaders. They can tell it to you. If not, they owe you $5. I remember those days. But I don't care what is on the paper or the back of the sweatshirt. At the end of the day, so many of our churches, our youth ministries, exist to support the church rather than the students in the youth ministry. The second point he made was the concept or the idea that, you know what, I know that they're graduating their faith, as it were. We're losing them as they graduate high school and going to college, but they'll be back, right? It's like there's all these little Arnold Schwarzeneggers leaving our youth ministry, and it's like they'll be back, right? But here's the thing. He brought out, one, just honestly the stupidity of that idea, but then secondly, how, one, they're not coming back in the same numbers because a lot of them are choosing to divorce the church, but then still like say, I can have Jesus without the church, and I can still be a Christian. And so they're not necessarily walking away from their faith, they're just walking away from the church, which means they're not going to then bring their kids back to what they're viewing as this toxic relationship that they got out of. They're not going to then bring their kids back for that same experience like we've always said they will and they've always done, or for the most part, done in the past. That tactic of just letting them go off and then coming back when we're ready for them no longer works. Secondly, the idea that he talked about, when they do come back, they're not coming back the same, that they're being like warped or corrupted or just, skewed by the world's worldview, as it were. And so they're not just coming back and picking up where they left off. There's a lot of unpacking and baggage to be done there, where it's just so much more effective just to minister to them consistently from the beginning. All right, in conclusion, what I got out of this section of the ministry of the church is that our job as ministers is not to attract as many people into the building as possible, but to connect as many people as possible to a saving relationship with Jesus Christ, and then help them on a daily basis walk that out in their real lives in a very real and practical way.